Hi there, second grade friends. It's Mrs. Shoemaker, and I am going to read today's chapter of Pee Wee Scout's Spring Sprouts. It is called The Yoke on Roger. Chapter 5. Here we go. What are those things on the cows' stomachs? Asked Lisa. Those are milking machines, said Mrs. Peters. Farmers used to milk cows by hand, but now farms are too big for them to do that. And the milk company inspects the equipment, said Mr. Raleigh. He showed the scouts how the machines were attached to the cows. Like a vacuum cleaner hose, squealed Patty. Ooh, does that hurt them? No, that's the way they work, Mr. Raleigh laughed, with suction. Pop, pop, pop. Mr. Raleigh put the machine on the cow. It looks like it hurts, Sonny argued. Mr. Raleigh shook his head. They like it, he said, patting one of the cows on the head. That's their job, to give milk. This is Bessie. Bessie turned her head and looked at Molly. She had huge brown eyes. She was chewing. Chew, chew, chew. She looks happy, said Lisa. Milk used to go into a pail. Now it goes right into a sterile tank, Mrs. Betts explained. The scouts walked up and down, looking at the cows and the machines. It was quiet in the barn, only the sound of cows chewing and machines humming. It was cool and clean. When the Pee-wees had seen all of the cows, Mr. Raleigh took them around and showed them the tanks with milk in them. He took some paper cups and filled them with milk. This is the freshest milk you'll ever drink, he said. Fresh calcium, said Mrs. Betts. Mr. Raleigh handed every scout a cup. Molly tasted it. It was warm. Rachel was going to say yuck, but she changed her mind. Mrs. Peters had warned the scouts to be polite. So Rachel just made a face. It's hot, shouted Tim. That's because it's right from the cow, said Mr. Raleigh. It hasn't had a chance to chill in the tanks yet. It's creamy, said Roger. He finished his, and Mr. Raleigh handed him another. He was the only scout who liked warm milk. Just then, Mrs. Raleigh came to the door. I'm going to stop right there and show you the picture. Some of their faces that they're making in the sketch. Yeah, you can see our guy who's happy, so Roger liked it. And a couple of them are not so sure, are they? Okay, so back to my bottom sentence. Just then, Mrs. Raleigh came to the door of the barn with a plate of hot cookies. She was round too, but not as round as Mr. Raleigh. She had yellow hair pulled back in a bun. The scouts went outside and sat on the thick green grass. They ate the cookies. Hey, said Roger, what happens if an egg falls on your head? The scouts groaned. The yoke's on you, said Roger. Yoke, get it? We get it, said Kenny. He rolled his eyes. Molly laughed a little to herself, even if she was mad at Roger. He told some pretty funny jokes. I'd like to live on a farm, said Molly to Mary Beth. I could have a great big garden then. Lots of radishes. I'd grow watermelons, said Mary Beth, like this. She put her arms out in a big circle to show how big they'd be. Nice and juicy, too. Yum, said Molly. I'd have a pet cow. I'd ride on her back. Molly lay down on the green grass. She looked at the sky. The sun was moving toward the west. It was very peaceful on a farm. Well, said Mrs. Peters, getting to her feet, we've been here a long time. It is time to start for home. She and Mrs. Betts counted scouts. Mrs. Betts frowned. There are only 10 scouts here, she said. I don't see Sonny. The scouts looked around. Mrs. Betts was right. Sonny was gone. I just saw Sonny a minute ago, said Mrs. Peters. Mrs. Betts dashed back into the barn. "Sonny, Sonny," she called. I almost said yelled, didn't I? Give me the same meaning, but not the correct word for our story. She ran up and down the rows of cows. She looked in all the stalls. "He's not in there," she cried when she came running out. "We'll find him," shouted Roger. "Let's all split up and look in different directions." "That dumb Sonny," muttered Lisa. "He's always in trouble." The Pee Wee Scouts spread out. They looked behind the farmhouse, they looked in the garage, and in the shed. They called his name over and over. "Sonny, Sonny, Sonny," but no one answered. "What's behind those trees?" Molly asked Lisa. "Let's look," Lisa said. They ran down a hill to a clump of trees. Soon the girls reached the other side of the little woods. "Hey!" shouted Molly. "There's Sonny." He was standing beside an animal pen. "Baby pigs," he said, smiling. Soon everyone came running down the hill. Mrs. Betts looked relieved to see Sonny. "I found the sow," said Sonny proudly. "Look at those cute baby pigs," said Lisa. "Their tails are so curly and they're so pudgy." "Just like Rachel," said Roger. "Oink, oink." Rachel turned and walked away. Her head was down. Molly had to do something about Roger. He was hurting Rachel's feelings too much. The Scouts tried to reach in between the slats on the fence. They tried to pet the baby pigs. "Look out," said Mr. Raleigh. "The sow is fussy about her babies." "Hey, look at me," shouted Roger. He had climbed up on top of the fence of the pig pen. It was narrow. It was high. Roger put one foot in front of the other like a tightrope walker. Rachel wasn't looking. Molly noticed. She was sitting on the grass with her head in her hands, feeling bad. Just as Molly started to say something to her, the Scouts heard a shriek. "Yow-wee!" cried Roger. His left foot slipped from the fence. His arms waved in the air. "Oh!" he yelled. "Help!" Splat! Everyone ran to the fence. "Oh no," shouted Kevin. "He fell in. Roger fell in the pig pen." I love this picture. Isn't that a good sketch? He sees what's going to happen. He's going to splat in the yuck and mud, I believe. He's kind of been a bully all the way along, hasn't he? Yeah? Well, let's see what happens next, friends. The Scouts were so surprised they didn't know if they should feel sorry for Roger or laugh. There he was, in the mud. Roger was covered from head to toe with guck and gook. He had mud all over his arms and his legs, even in his hair. "Quick," called Mr. Raleigh. "Climb out of there before the sow comes after you. She'll think you're after her babies." "I don't want her babies," shouted Roger. "Just get me out of here." The Pee-wees didn't laugh. They were afraid of the big sow. But when Rachel saw Roger covered with mud and slime, she began to laugh loudly. She laughed harder and harder. She pointed at Roger and said, "Ha! Look who's the pig now!" She couldn't stop laughing. Mr. Raleigh reached in and pulled Roger over the fence. "You smell as bad as you look," said Rachel. "You stink." Roger looked sheepish. He tried to pretend it was a good joke, but it didn't work. "The yoke's on you this time," said Rachel. "The yoke's on you." Rachel had tears in her eyes. Molly noticed. She was laughing and crying at the same time. Okay, boys and girls, our next chapter is going to be chapter 6. It's called No Badge for Molly. I wonder what's going to happen. Okay, stay tuned for the next one. Bye, guys.